All right, so we're live and we're gonna try this again. And so I'm using a different microphone. Let me see. Can you guys hear me a little bit better now? Hopefully you can. I'm gonna try to speak up, and we're using a different microphone. Let me see. I wish that um, you guys could. Or I wish the studio function was a little bit more available. I was trying to make it so I can have more control over it, and I'm trying to use YouTube Studio and all that, and it doesn't seem to necessarily be working. So we're going to be using the camera's microphone, and I'm going to try to speak up louder so you guys can hear me better through the camera's microphone. So hopefully you guys can hear me. Hopefully it's okay. Let me know right now if you can't hear me because I don't have the headphones. Well, in the last live stream, I had the headphones on and it sounded great, but you guys weren't hearing anything, right? Let me know if you can hear anything right now. Please just comment. I know some of you guys are watching right now, so let me know if you can hear me. Let me know if you can hear me. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and start the match again here. Let's go ahead and scoot forward. So Gary Tonon, the Lion Killer. So we'll skip the whole walkout stuff. Against Matsushima. Let's go and skip his walkout. So they're putting on all the Vaseline, all that stuff. Okay, let's go and skip to here. So tail of the tape stuff: karate versus grappling, Japan versus USA. There's a lot to learn, especially in this first round here. So what we got going on here? Karate guy. He is ranked number 3 in that weight division for one championship. This is taking place in Singapore. So the Lion Killer, and this is really significant here, right? Because that means that he's known for his I think I like Mata Leao or Mata Leones, where it's like rear naked choke, right? So a lot of people predict that if Gary is able to get someone onto their, or was able to get someone's back, then he'll choke him out, right? So that's kind of the thing that's going on. Let's go and skip to the match. So Koyomi Matsushima, karate guy, 12-4 record, not bad. Let's go ahead and skip to the match. It's round 1. All right. Okay. So what do we have here? We have some sloppy kicks and stuff, but I think ultimately Tonon has like the upper hand with the mental game, right? So yeah, you see he's able to just like kind of run in, and he gets that arm in guillotine position. He's gonna see if he can't like maintain it and keep it, right? But the thing is, look what Matsushima is doing. He's just working on that wrist control, right? So that ultimately is making that uncomfortable to maintain, so he gets out of it, right? And then he throws a punch, which is good on the way out. Really good. I wouldn't say excellent, but he's able to. This part is okay, but then look, you see how they're kind of right on top of each other, right? That allows Tonon to try to set up a sweep, or even now he was trying. Well, he was trying another type of sweep, but now he's just back up into this position, which that ultimately allows Tonon to get a little bit more closer to taking the back, right? So Matsushima, what he should have done there was get a little bit more across the body, so more like a side control position that prevents a lot of the rolling from happening. But anyway, he doesn't do that, so he finds himself in this position that you see here, right? So you have Tonon basically taking the bag. Looks like he's working for the body lock, which he's kind of nearing. Looks like he's getting close to it, and yeah, there it is. All right. But what is Matsushima doing that is actually keeping him from getting submitted? Look at that. It's this wrist control. And he has 2 hands on it. Well, he had 2 hands on it for a second, right? But he's basically preventing it from going under his chin. It isn't, I mean, it's kind of like the last ditch effort. It's like one of the fundamental things that you really need to be doing, right? So, so you can see then a guy who's like probably not even ranked in no-gi in the world is defending himself against one of the top grapplers in the world, right? So this shows where you can have like a little bit of defensive knowledge, and then it goes a long way, right? So look, so right now the position isn't under the chin, right? Still more over the chin, so it's probably just a little bit more uncomfortable for Matsushima. This is actually probably the most uncomfortable part, right? The body lock, because that's pretty restrictive. Um, but the thing is, that it's also because of the ankle position here. This can be a little bit uncomfortable for Tonon there, but now you see the choke is going under the chin, but he's still able to get out, right? So this basically, what I want to remind you, right, is that 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 wrist control is very, very important, right? And let's see, Chef is talking about the gloves. Yes, that's also another thing that you want to take into consideration. So the gloves, they're thin, but they're still thick enough to kind of make it a little bit more difficult to finish, to basically to snake your hand into the position. But that is less of a concern because he actually ends up he's still able to get these positions, right? You're still able, and rear naked chokes still happen in MMA, right? So one of the points that I want to try to reiterate here is that one of the things that makes catch wrestling special is that because in professional catch wrestling they didn't do rear naked chokes or guillotines and stuff, then they have a more wide variety of techniques that you can do from the back. I'm not saying, I know that there's going to be some kind of jiu-jitsu person saying like, well, we have other techniques from the back. Yes, you do, but look, this is the one you guys are always defaulting to, right? So right here, Tonon's claiming the guy's pulling the thumb, but so then the ref slaps it off or whatever, but still unable to finish it, right? And so you see how Matsushima's keeping just the one arm. So you still have the arm that's underneath the neck, right? It's underneath the chin there, right? And he's still unable to finish the double wrist, unable to finish the rear naked choke because of that wrist control, right? So you kept the one arm away. You can't get that figure four position. It's really, there's more things you can do to defend yourself, right? But, like, it does appear that this guy isn't necessarily the highest level grappler. Again, they didn't even put that down on his tail of the tape thing, and they put karate down as his background. So, just with some basic wrist control things, he's able to defend himself from getting choked by a high level grappler. So that being said, how you mentioned the glove stuff. Then if the gloves are so problematic, then rear naked choke wouldn't be happening as much in MMA. But also then that means if the gloves are problematic, then jiu-jitsu would have to shift to doing or learning other techniques, right? From the back, right? So the thing I want you guys to know is that if someone takes your back, it's not the end all be all, right? So wrestling in particular, even without submissions, they have a lot of techniques that are good for when someone's on your back. Right? Go ahead and keep watching. See, this is you see, and this is the other thing too. Like this, like Matsushima, I think he could have won. I think he's giving a little too much respect to Tonon, and that was his problem because he could have been punching more or he could have been striking more, and he ended up just kind of like evading, kind of sliding out of different things, which ultimately I think gives Tonon the advantage, right? And so let's go ahead and kind of scoot forward a little bit. Yeah, there's some. See, so because of that respect, like look, Tonon is able to just come in and try all kinds of different takedowns, and they work, right? Which shouldn't necessarily be happening. So it's like you see, like in one championship, you had that other fight was like with Sage Northcutt versus Cosmo, and like Cosmo didn't really give him that extra respect. So then um, that like ultimately resulted in Cosmo just breaking Sage's face, right? Yeah. So Big James, you commented, yeah, mustache psyched him out. Yes. So I think also the press and stuff. So even the commentators, if you watch this fight, I'm sure that the press was really psyching him out with regards to saying like, oh, if it goes onto the ground, it's done, right? So I'm sure Matsushima was working on defense, right? And this right here. So again, this you see a lot in jiu-jitsu where they talk about like, oh, if someone gets the leg in front of the arm, then oh, you're golden here, right? You've taken one arm out of the equation, and the choke is good as secured, right? But even against this low-level grappler, that's not the case, right? The ref, I think, kind of didn't want him to kind of get the fingers into the toes. Then there's also really excellent wrestling technique. It's in catch wrestling, but also in folk style and stuff that he could be doing. But it also so that shows me that he's not necessarily a wrestler either. We won't talk about it right now. We can kind of show it in a different video. But there's a lot that Matsushima could be doing when he's having this leg here, but he's not. So it shows not necessarily a wrestler, not necessarily a jiu-jitsu person either. At least that would be my assessment. But the thing is, even with the basic defense that he does know, right, he's able to hold off one of the best in the world, right? And the best in the world then should probably try to be doing other types of submissions, right? I mean, what do you guys think, right? Because basically what I see all kinds of weird comments online, really defending, not necessarily Tonon in particular, but jiu-jitsu in particular, where I think a lot of people are thinking it's the end-all, be-all, but there's more to life than just getting a rear naked choke. I think that's ultimately my main point here, right? This is actually pretty interesting here. You see, so I believe this is the part where Matsushima does something really good. We'll find out. Let's see. Well, either way, he's still trying to use the cage here to kind of pop up. I think he could probably be a little more Khabib-like. Yeah, pull the guy's leg. Yeah, but Gary's kind of adjusting to it, and he's kind of going over to the back. Let's go ahead and kind of skip forward a little bit. I want to give a shout out to One Championship. Usually they're really nice about using their footage. Oh, look. So Matsushima is able to get on top. Is able to kind of have a half guard here, kind of through a knee. I think it landed. But I don't know why he's trying to do this kind of whizzer throw on the ground. It's not going to work. Yeah, I want to give that shout out to One Championship. They're usually pretty kind about people using their footage, because it's better. I mean, like not only is it instructional, but it helps people know that there's actually more to life than UFC as well, right? There's actually a pretty good segment here in the replay. Yeah, you can see the knee lands. But the thing is, I think all the stuff kind of shows either he's not necessarily that he's neither a grappler or he's neither a jiu-jitsu person or a wrestler, right? But yeah, I guess that's why they describe him as a karate guy, because he wasn't able to keep pressure on top. He still was able to land a knee, but the thing is, yeah, I think he's given a little too much respect to Tonon. He's the one that should have been throwing. You see how Tonon landed a couple punches right there at the beginning. Matsushima should have been the one doing that, right? But he's just kind of like waiting around, kind of lingering. Yeah, and he threw a punch and it got caught. Threw a kick, got caught. There's another thing I want you to see, since Tonon is really famous for doing leg locks. Matsushima, where he throws one punch, but he's kind of using kind of a stacking situation, right? And then once he stands back up, he kind of uses that momentum to pull his leg out, right? So in a way, I think maybe kind of got Tonon thinking about something different, and that kind of loosened the figure four of the leg enough to get the guy at least get the guy some space so that he can step his leg out, right? He can yank his leg out. I think this is the third round, so they kind of they look a little energetic, but I think ultimately Matsushima is looking a little tired or hesitant or whatever. So that was actually a pretty strong kick, but out of range. Let's go and fast forward a little bit here because I don't think anything of note really happens. This ultimately became Matsushima's fight to lose, because if it stays standing, then that should have been his strength, right? It should have been his time to really lay some punches. Since Matsushima got his kick caught, that one landed, but he got his kick caught earlier. Maybe he could have just kept it boxing, right? Right. But he's just throwing kind of one-off punches here and there. Not quite like he's not really going for it. I think that's the main problem that's going on there. Because it's the third round, you have a minute left, and Tonon was on your back for at least 3 minutes or so in this entire match. Right, he didn't hit him back enough to win it, right? And so right now, it's less than a minute now. He's kind of throwing some punches, right? So I think this is a combination of too much respect. Maybe he's a little bit more fatigued now. Maybe he wants to try to throw some big knockout punch. Looks like he's maybe thinking about it, trying to get his range. Yeah, and he was out of range, and he threw it I don't know. I think ultimately Matsushima really lost this match for himself. He totally lost this match on his own because of that, the basic defense he had against Tonon's choke attempts. I don't want to say it was spectacular or anything like that. It wasn't, right? It was great. It was good enough to keep the choke from happening. But this Matsushima's definitely got to learn more, right? I would say take that defense and then maybe add some. I would say add some catch wrestling to it, right? You can kind of see here. It's going to go to where they announce the winner, and of course, Tonon wins. So Tonon wins that one. He deserved to win that. But I think the main point here is that I want to show you guys that it's even with some basic wrist control, you can block a lot of these people's techniques, regardless of whether they're trying to choke you or even going for the double wrist lock, the Kimura, right, that you guys call it. That is very it's imperative that you guys know these things. There's some more details that he didn't do that I think can make the defense even better, but I think it shows just with what little he knew, he was able to get out of multiple choke attempts, and also a couple leg lock attempts. I think there was 2 leg lock attempts or leg lock setup entanglements, right, that you guys are calling nowadays. So he was able to get out of all of it, right? And then he just didn't capitalize when they were in the position where his strength could shine, where he he's obviously the better striker, but I think he respected Tonon too much, and so then Tonon was throwing a lot of these one-off kind of far range punches, and they were landing, which they shouldn't have been against a higher level kickboxer, right? So those are my 2 cents. Let's go ahead and get into your guys' questions here. Big James, the mustache psyched him out. Gokor showed a shoulder lock from the back. There's so many things that are there in catch wrestling, because and what people need to understand, because like right now you see there's like some people who claim to be catch wrestlers that are all about choking, and it's like, you guys, the reason why catch wrestling has all these great neck cranks and different kinds of shoulder locks and stuff is because of in professional catch wrestling there wasn't the rear naked choke that was barred, right? And it was only basically 3 chokes ultimately, right? Rear naked choke, guillotine, and kind of like the bulldog choke, right? Those 3 things. Other things were fine, right? So that's why catch wrestling has such a wide variety of techniques. If you get someone onto their back, right? Or I'm sorry, if you get someone onto their back, you pin them, right? But if you're on their back, you have a lot of different types of submissions, a lot of ways to roll a person over that you don't see emphasized in jiu-jitsu. But what, say, in my opinion, and based off of comments, right? Because I've been doing plenty of jiu-jitsu for many years. Based off people's comments, it's like you probably haven't seen comments for this match where it's like, oh, if he gets your back, you're done. And that was Gary Tonon's nickname is the Lion Killer because of the rear naked choke, because that's what they call it in Portuguese, right? The mata leão, right? So he wasn't able to do it against a lower level grappler. So that's my point. If you get used to doing something like that, it's better to get a variety of things, right? So, or even nowadays, since I think I've always said where it's like the rear naked choke is legal in jiu-jitsu from white belt level. So from day one, it's legal. So I think a lot of people are good at defending it. So I personally don't rely on it. Even when I'm in jiu-jitsu, in a jiu-jitsu studio rolling with people, I rarely even go for it. I mean, I'll choke someone out when it's just like there, when they're like, when it's just I don't know, like when it's so obvious, then they're not. Maybe I've got them to think about something else, and then their neck is wide open. But it's not really what I'm going for. And I wish people would know that, or like kind of realize that there's more to grappling than that. Because based off comments, man, it's like you'd see weird. You see too many people believing in that false god of the rear naked choke. Or we saw one of the best at rear naked chokes not able to get his technique on a low level grappler. And you saw in the match, like the guy is not a high level grappler, he's not even a high level wrestler. No offense, Matsushima. I don't know what he's doing in his training, but he's not performing. Like, he doesn't look like a wrestler to me, right? So that's my opinion. So that's why I'm saying I don't think he's a high level grappler or wrestler or whatever. But I think they worked a lot on the choke defense and some of the leg lock defense before this fight, and he was able to at least make it out, not getting submitted. It was totally his fight to lose, and he lost it. So he kind of just gave it up. So that's sad. I feel sad for him, right? But we'll see. I mean, now I think after this match, their one championship probably has to give Gary Tonon a higher level guy. This guy I think was ranked number 3 in that division. So the higher level guys are definitely better at striking. So let's see if they're able to land some punches and kicks to Gary's face in the next one. All right, so let's go ahead and get back to your questions here. From Hike, they want in the U.S. market. Yeah, they've been here. I went to their press conference when they were here in the United States, and they were talking about it. I think COVID really blocked that from occurring. I think they wanted to try to do something, maybe small in LA or Vegas or something. But either way, it's like they're still bigger view-wise than UFC. So I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on in their headquarters. So yeah, who knows what they're thinking? But yeah, they definitely want to expand, and they do have really high level strikers in their different divisions. So their fights are pretty good. Their fight cards are pretty good. Let's get some more of your questions. So yeah, invisible hot dog. I'm sure there were six. I'm sure there were six more guys like Shamrock that could have been in the first UFC tournament and made Royce's night a living hell if he even beat the first one. You are more right than you realize, right? So the first UFC was a marketing, like a marketing ploy or whatever, marketing scheme for jiu-jitsu. And I think I've said it on another live stream here where one of my friends, who you can also get his book, John Peretti, he was around at that time. He also had a rival MMA organization. John Peretti also coined the term MMA. He describes that night as if you take a boy in his pajamas and you put him up against a lot of people who can't even tie their own shoes, of course he's going to win. So yeah, a lot of them. There was a lot of people in Japan who were fighting, who could have been at a higher level. And then you saw again later when Royce ultimately went to Japan, he got beat, or he had to throw in the towel against Sakuraba. Right, I think that's still the longest MMA match in history. Right. So invisible hot dogs talking about, there are a lot of other people around that time that were training, and it's not like a lot of these submission holds were like completely foreign or anything like that. Like there's nothing new under the sun. We have even a lot of wrestling techniques on the walls of ancient Egyptian tombs and stuff. So it's not new, right? It's just you have these different styles. So what that means with styles, it means it's like there's different ways of doing things. So like speaking is not new, but we have several different languages on the earth. So there's different styles of communicating with sound, right? But even animals, they have their own, like dolphins or whatever, they have their own talking and whatever, their own ways of communication. So yeah, that goes to say, it's like, grappling, these techniques are not necessarily brand new. You're not inventing anything, but there's just different ways of attacking, right? Different ways of fighting, and sometimes the rules can change the way people attack, right? So you see how like folk style and freestyle came from catch wrestling, but because of rules changes over the decades, they have they went from no time limit to a very, very short match. They went from the ability to, if they adopted it, they could have had submission holds from the beginning, but they barred them instantly. So then you get people who come from a wrestling background and they don't know how to do all these submission holds, and then you see them, unfortunately, like even in with this past couple years, where you have some really well-known collegiate wrestlers just get destroyed by people like Gordon Ryan and stuff like that. They get Gordon Ryan did a triangle choke, and then also he submitted Pat Downey with that power half, right? So anyway, so ultimately that's unfortunate, because I wish that people, especially a lot of the amateur wrestlers, kind of like respected their history a little bit more, so that they would train in catch wrestling. That'd be great. Then they could compete a little bit better, actually a lot better, in these grappling matches, and they wouldn't be getting beat by say even like Nicky Rod, not Nicky, is that a name? Nick Rodriguez, right? So who was not necessarily like the highest level he wasn't Division I, but because of his wrestling, and then he started learning with one of the best schools, right? Gary Tonon's coach. than he did so well in ADCC, right? And he's only considered a blue belt. So that's unfortunate. So like the amateur wrestling, as great as it can be, and as great an athlete that it produces, it's still like kind of so limiting that they're not producing as well-rounded of a athlete or as a combat sports athlete as they could, right? It's still I don't think we're necessarily going to see that change so much because I mean a lot of wrestlers do very well in MMA, so then you get a lot of wrestlers thinking where it's all I need to know boxing and wrestling and then I can win. It's true, actually. That's very true. But I always strive to try to know more than just what is enough to win an MMA match, right? So I like to try to dig in a little bit deeper there, so that you can know more things that you can do, right? So say like in this match with Matsushima and Tonon, you had Tonon on Matsushima's back, and if he knew more things to do, he could have reversed Tonon and been on top more than he actually did. He was actually still able to do that a couple times, but he didn't capitalize on it as well as he could have. He didn't reverse Tonon. There are a couple times, like I mentioned, right, when he had the leg, you totally throw that over your head, and you can either reverse it to where he's in where Matsushima would have gone into Tonon's guard, or he could have thrown the leg off completely and then maybe slipped out the back and got the back of Tonon himself, right? So, all right, let's get back to your questions here. Tony, yep, they need to bring freestyle judo to the mainstream. All right, so what's freestyle judo? Did someone else make a comment earlier about freestyle judo? Oh yeah. So an earlier comment from Tony is like if you take judo, yeah. So in the case of judo, right, they banned the leg grabs and stuff. What I heard too from one of my students who's a judo black belt is that they banned the leg grab in judo because you have some wrestlers just double legging everybody. So then they wanted to try to ban that because then you can get back to all the gi stuff, the beautiful judo stuff, right? All right, let's get yeah, it's unfortunate. All right. So what other question? There's a video on the West African wrestling, except they allow strikes. Yeah, I've been seeing more and more of that. I got to take time to look at it more. I don't know how extensive the strikes are. Big James, Anton Giesink beat all the Japanese and with wrestling moves, and they got mad. Oh, okay. So that was probably the person who was beating all the judo guys, right? So yeah, that's the thing. I think I got some comments on one of the memes we posted yesterday about how we see comments too, where it's like a lot of people who come from a jiu-jitsu background or who are trying to cater to the mainstream jiu-jitsu community. They try to make the pins longer, or they're allowing chokes or different things just to cater to more of a mainstream audience. But that kind of shows where it's like, can you win with your level of catch wrestling? I mean, catch wrestling can win, if you're actually good at it. And we're seeing, so you saw here with Matsushima's low level wrestling, he was still able to get on top like once or twice, and also was able to defend against chokes. Right? I think that's one of the things people are trying to claim, where it's like, because in catch wrestling competition, they barred a few, like basically like 3 chokes, so that a catch wrestler doesn't know chokes, right? But it's just not true. You saw how like there are a lot of defense against chokes, and then also in the old catch wrestling textbooks, they do show chokes, but then again on the same plate, they talk about like, oh, this is just for your information. This would be barred in competition. Also, even in Farmer Burns, I'll probably bring that up because in two of his things, he has the book that I show you guys a lot, but then even in his correspondence course, he does talk about jujitsu in particular, and I believe he also talks about chokes. So maybe in another live stream, I'll bring that up because ultimately he even talks about like, yeah, you can use chokes in self-defense, but a lot of times you don't even need that because it's all about controlling the other person. And you can, with your wrestling, you can do that in a far more superior way. And then that also is reiterated by Billy Wicks. So like my grand coach, right, through my good friend John Strickland on the East Coast. So Billy Wicks, just so you guys know, Billy Wicks, I'm not talking about Billy Robinson. I'm talking about Billy Wicks. So he spent time as a law enforcement officer, and even though he had a gun, he never pulled it, and he always was really great about controlling someone. And one of the stories that John Strickland mentioned is that Billy stated that like if people are having a hard time getting handcuffs on somebody, they really don't have good understanding about the body mechanics, right? They don't know wrestling so well, right? So that shows that even in the streets, right, law enforcement officer trying to arrest somebody, he was still able to use his ability. And he wasn't double wrist locking people, he wasn't hurting people, but he was able to control someone well enough that he could arrest them safely and without harming them, right? So that is very, very important. That shows great understanding of wrestling. Yeah, pro wrestling is still catch wrestling in French, which is unfortunate, but that actually comes from the whole like in the Romance languages, what they called catch wrestling, which is where like lucha libre, right? Or I think I don't know how to say it pronounce it in French. It's like a lucha libre or something like that. So and that's where we get the name nowadays of freestyle wrestling, because that kind of means like free, like libre means like free, and then lucha is like a kind of free fight or free wrestling. So that still sticks in France, and so that's why they're still calling catch wrestling pro wrestling, which unfortunately they're not the same thing. But that's because the lines unfortunately got really blurred between pro wrestling and catch wrestling. But that happened so early on that I can see why that happened, and it's unfortunate, and that's why catch wrestling almost went extinct, right? Because a lot of people were doing the pro stuff or doing the Olympic stuff, and then they almost completely forgot about the OG catch wrestling, right? The original version. Yeah, invisible hot dog. Yeah, he banana split suspect. Yeah. That'd be pretty amazing. All right, that's actually pretty funny. And we should make a video of that, right? Like do a whole skit where it's like on the street catch wrestling detectives or catch wrestling beat cops. All right, that'll be the next the next thing on TNT, that TV station that has all the cop shows. All right, you guys have any more questions? You're pretty active today, so yeah. Any other things that you guys want to talk about? Go ahead and ask right now. I'll still be on for a few more minutes if you guys keep asking. So yeah, hopefully you guys kind of got my message about the whole thing, where it's like you got to you got to know more than just relying on a rear naked choke or just chokes in general. So what Matsushima in this fight, he also got out of the guillotine attempt, the arm in guillotine attempt with wrist control. He also postured up. So it just made it uncomfortable to maintain that hold. And then also got out of leg lock attempt, the leg entanglement, which, Tonon is really strong in all these positions. So that's one of the comments that someone made earlier about the gloves. In that leg entanglement, no gloves were needed, right? It was the legs kind of trapped, and Matsushima was still able to get out, right? So that kind of negates some of the glove stuff, right? Big James, Raul, where do you coach now? I'm at Fight Science MMA right now, again, because we're all shut down here in LA. We don't have any classes going, so just hold tight. We also have the online class, right? I don't know if Big James, I don't know if you're in LA, but when we open up again, then please come down. Please come train. So yeah, we're pretty much right in the middle of the city in LA. Like I think it's called Mid City anyway. So it's right by La Brea and Washington. It's right near there. So Tony is asking the best place you'd like to train if you were in Oregon. Sorry, I don't know much about Oregon. I've only actually I've never even been to Oregon. I've been to Vancouver, like way far north of you. Oh, so Invisible Hot Dog. I'm interested in the BJJ versus Greco question 2. I didn't see it. What's that question? Well, Greco again is kind of you can. So someone mentioned earlier about the judo and not grabbing the legs. It's basically like no-gi. I wouldn't want to say no-gi judo, but it's like, yeah, you can't grab legs in Greco, and so you got to do all upper body grabs, right? And then that's why a lot of times when you see highlights of amateur wrestling, you see these big suplexes and stuff like that, it's most likely Greco. So even you'll see their stance be a little bit different because they don't have to worry about the legs. So they're going to be more upright. They're going to keep their hands really tight in, and they're going to walk at each other kind of really like with their back stiff and going forward, right? Right. So, yeah, I mean, with regards to like if a BJJ person were to fight a Greco person, I'd say if it was like a no-gi match, I'd probably give the advantage to the jiu-jitsu person, right? Because they can grab anywhere really, so that should be an advantage. If you just think the Greco person has no knowledge of submission holds, they're just thinking about the suplex and the pin, then I believe if you take away the pin and all that, and then they're only left with these big throws, these upper body throws, upper body takedowns, then jiu-jitsu person should be able to win, right? To get a submission eventually, right? If you take away that pin. Yeah, they might even get thrown or suplex, but doesn't matter, right? If the pin is not there, then they can get tossed and set up some kind of counter, right? So yeah, that's my opinion on that. Okay, so yeah, keep on asking your questions. Yeah, so I think we'll go. If you guys liked some of like going over some of the match breakdowns where you actually watch it together, we can totally do that. I know that One Championship is a little bit cooler. Actually, it's a lot cooler than UFC with regards to using their footage. So we'll probably do that. We'll probably do that more with their stuff because they actually have in their women's division. They actually have some pretty high level grapplers. They have some black belt, judo black belts. They also have a woman who fought actually the other night. I got to check out that match. Have a high level wrestler from India who's been fighting. So we'll probably do some breakdowns of those, or we can watch them together. But yeah, also in the comments, just let me know more things if there's more things you guys have questions about or more things you'd like to see, we can totally talk about it, do something for you guys. Right? I appreciate you guys watching. Yeah, so maybe we'll go ahead and let me check if you have any more questions. What would be the best analog from Invisible Hot Dogs? What would be the best analog to train for someone who doesn't have catch around? If you're in the United States, I would say maybe folk style wrestling. If you're like in India or something, kushti wrestling is probably even closer to catch wrestling than folk style. Old catch wrestling, right? Then I mean, like because right now, older, like decades old, folk style was much more closer to catch wrestling than it is today, right? So, but kushti never really, I don't think it's changed really. So that kushti is closer now to catch wrestling than modern folk style. But yeah, if you're in the United States and you don't have catch wrestling around, then I would say go ahead and maybe try to find a good folk style place, and then I wouldn't want to say then you just add some of the submissions or whatever, but maybe start playing around with some of the figure four holds, like trying to get that double wrist lock while you roll, or see if your partner will be willing to allow you to roll, but don't go to guard, right? Or don't go to even butterfly guard. Well, don't stay there, right? Try to transition out. You can roll through. You can get set up a, if they throw you back downwards and you're on your back face up, see if you can't bridge and turn out or grab a double wrist lock. Try to throw them over you, right? All right. Invisible hot dog. You're not in the States. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Uh, well, then I don't got anything for you. So just go to India, do kushti, or come to the United States and do folk style once the travel ban is lifted. Invisible hot dog. Let me know what country you're in. I kind of hesitate to say freestyle because freestyle, once you get thrown down, then you pancake out. You can do that whole parterre stuff, which is not realistic, and like it'll get you smashed in a jiu-jitsu match. It'll get you smashed in MMA. It's just not good. It's getting people smashed when I was doing competitions in China, because they have kind of like one of the areas that I was doing wrestling in. Their traditional wrestling is a little bit more like freestyle, but it's in the dirt, right? So then you don't want to be pancaking out in the dirt. So you're in Canada. If you are in Alberta, go to Eckville. There's Crank Gym in Eckville. They do it. I think right now they're focused a little bit more. I think ultimately, freestyle is the thing, but the coach there, Adam Laporte, he trained a bit in Wigan with Roy Wood, and so his wrestling fundamentals are good. He actually won some grappling tournaments in Canada. I think they were like national level things. So yeah, Eckville, Alberta, Canada, Crank Gym. So if you can, go over there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Or yeah, like you're saying, you can shoot a double on a bear. Yeah, that's true too. You guys got you guys got a lot of wilderness. See if you can find a Bigfoot and then grapple it. Right. Yeah, the one that I can recommend the most would be Crank Gym in Alberta, Eckville. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have questions? Okay, so in the meantime, what we're having here is like, so yeah, unfortunately, catch wrestling isn't like on every street corner like jiu-jitsu is a lot of the times. So we also have our online Catch Wrestling Alliance Academy, so CWA Academy. You can go learn online if you can have a friend do it. We have someone also that's in a kind of a remote area in Alaska doing it, but also it's available all around the world. And we have different levels. So if you go and join, you have to demonstrate proficiency in the fundamentals classes before you get access to more advanced lessons. So it kind of you advance along with it, right? And so it should be a little bit more difficult than like I've seen how people you just pay them and all of a sudden you're some sort of certified class or certified instructor. It's not that way with us. We want real quality. As you've seen in a lot of our matches, we actually have some real legit people competing, and so it's catch wrestling should be respected instead of just getting certified in one weekend or something. That's garbage, guys. Okay, so thank you guys for watching. I think we'll go ahead and end it here. But yeah, if you have any more comments or questions, go ahead and add them in the comment box below. Okay, all right. So see you next time, and yeah, let me know if there's anything else you want to talk about. We'll be happy to talk. Okay, thanks for watching.